So what would you do as president to take the billions of dollars that we're subsidizing big oil and coal with, and instead help us develop the green economy and help our farmers in South Carolina?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I love that sweet potato.
Instead of corn, it gets 5 times as much ethanol pressure as corn.
Yeah, I saw one last night at the food bank. For those of you who may not be as familiar, she's obviously very into this issue with the point she was just making. There are actually differences between the three leading Democratic candidates on a couple of issues that have to do with the environment. One is this issue of nuclear power. Unlike Senator Clinton and Senator Obama, I am opposed to building new nuclear power plants, completely opposed to it. Second, I think we do need a moratorium on the building of more coal-fired power plants unless we have the ability, until we have the ability to capture the carbon and sequester it underground. The reason is because we are the worst polluter on the planet. I mean, we are about 4% of the world's population. We put out a quarter, 25% of the world's greenhouse gases. And we can't make a bad situation worse, which is what more coal-fired power plants that don't capture the carbon do. So, and by the way, the reason I'm against more nuclear power plants are some of the reasons you just pointed out. You know, we don't have a safe way to dispose of the waste. They are dangerous, and they are incredibly expensive to build and get online. So for all those reasons, I'm against them. The way we can do this, if we do it smart, and we've seen the same kind of problems, economic problems, in small towns and rural communities in North Carolina, is the farmers are struggling, the mills are leaving. This is all familiar to all of you. Farmers struggling, mills leaving. There's not much left to support the economy. We can do a variety of things. One is, as we green the economy, and we create at least 1 million new jobs, we can locate those jobs, if we're smart, in the places that have been hurt the worst. In rural towns, rural communities, small towns are perfect examples of what I'm talking about. We can do more than that, though. See, I think that one of the things we ought to be doing is we have trouble getting investment capital to small towns and small communities. It congregates in the biggest cities. And what that means is, when you don't have investment capital, then you're not creating jobs, there aren't employment opportunities, and it's very hard to either keep the young people who are graduating in the community, or to keep people there who've been living there for decades because they have to go somewhere else to support their families. So what do? We create a national investment fund that exists for the purpose of getting investment capital into small towns and small communities. And that way we help strengthen the economy in small towns and small communities. The other thing we ought to be doing is we ought to have a president who's encouraging Americans to buy local, because it's good for the local economy, good for local farmers, and talking about the environment, everything that comes to us from half a world away from China carries a huge carbon footprint with it, because it has to be transferred, it has to be shipped. And one last thing, we also ought to have country of origin labeling laws that are enforced, so that everybody knows what you buy, where what you're buying is coming from. Elizabeth was telling me, she did most of the shopping for our kids for Christmas. She said trying to find a toy that didn't come from China is almost impossible. I mean, almost impossible. So we need a president who understands all these things and how they're connected to one another, because they are completely connected.